Joining us on the Geneva Learning Foundation's social media platforms or listening to the podcast. We're counting down, so there's 1 minute 30 seconds. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you may want to fast forward about a minute and a half to get to the start of the kickoff of the second hackathon for Immunization Agenda 2030. So this is a series of 4 weekly hackathons that we're doing in the context of the IA 2030. That's the acronym for Immunization Agenda 2030. That is the world's strategy to achieve the immunization goals by the year 2030. And today we have selected challenges submitted by participants in a 4-week process focused on implementing Immunization Agenda action plans. So even if you didn't quite make sense of all that and how everything is related to everything else, if you work in immunization, if you too are facing challenges in your work, stay on, listen in, and you have many different ways to contribute through the comments. And if you're on the Telegram group, you can go there as well. See you in 30 seconds. All right, a warm welcome to you from Geneva, Switzerland. I'm Rida Sadki, and we are doing the second of a series of 4 weekly hackathons for Immunization Agenda 2030. This is the world's strategy for achieving the immunization goals by the year 2030. What is a hackathon? It's a problem-solving session, an occasion in which we examine one person's challenge, and everyone gets to share their experience, not tell the challenge owner what to do, but actually share ideas, share experience in order to make progress. Now, if you are in our Zoom studio and you cannot currently hear me, I don't see anybody in this situation, but just in case, you do need to join the audio. Now, for participants who are in the Immunization Agenda Accelerator, this is week 2, so you can see some of the key tasks that we hope you are focusing on this week. But again, a reminder, the Accelerator at heart is not a course. It is about doing what your Ministry of Health is asking you to do, taking that plan for that action plan that you developed around the Immunization Agenda 2030 and turning it into action and results. Now, today, what we're doing here, I'm going to move myself out of the way, is a short session to share experience, problem solve, and help you implement. Jenny Saguerra is here. Charlotte Mbu is right now facilitating a workshop with the Ghana Health Service and other partners on malaria and NTD integration. So that is why I am filling in for her today. I'm going to go very quickly with these reminders so we can then introduce Jenny and then introduce the challenge that we're going to be working on. Now, there's an open invitation for you to share your success stories, lessons learned, and challenges throughout the 4 weeks of the Impact Accelerator. Now, let me be clear. The reason we are doing these hackathons and inviting you to share experience in this way is because when you applied to join the Impact Accelerator, we asked you, do you want to meet your peers for short sessions to share experience? And 178 of those who were accepted into the accelerator said yes. Not only yes, I'm interested, I wish for this to happen, but I will prioritize this. So it is in response to your expressed needs that we are doing these hackathons. Now, what is a hackathon? Initially, this started out in Teach to Reach, and you can see these are short 30-minute sessions, which is why I'm going to move very quickly through this information. You can always review the recording afterwards. Now, how does it work? Charlotte Mbu and Jenny Saguerra have reviewed all of the incoming challenges that you have shared through the Impact Accelerator. And so we identify one or more individuals and they are the challenge owners. We explain, sort of review what the challenge is about, and then we dive in. So the team may ask additional questions, but really we turn to those of you who are in our Zoom studio, participants in the Impact Accelerator, or who are in the Telegram live stream. You can actually raise your hand in Telegram and we'll open up your microphone so you can share from there as well. And ask you, Yunus, how does this relate to your experience? And and say, we don't want prescriptions. We'd like you to say, this happened to me. I've been through this. This is what I did. And this is how it turned out for me. Now, challenge owners are asked a long list of 10 questions. These are evidence-based questions. It's part of what we call at the foundation, the ITCH methodology. So without further ado, let's dive in. We have a challenge number 1, and because we have the full studio with music and applause, I'm just going to say hello to Emanuela Chinoni Odunze, joining from Nigeria, Magaji Ubaleado Minjibir, also from Kano State, Nigeria, and then we have Deepak Kumar Patro from India. All right, so let's dive in and let's see what this first challenge is about. And if you are in the Telegram room, you should see a blue button. It's sort of blue-purple. Little man with a raised hand, or little person, I guess, gender-neutral person with a raised hand. You can tap on that, and that will let me know that you wish to speak, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. If not, type a message so we can actually do that. And then just to say, Taban Yanika has already responded to Kevin Safia's challenge in the Telegram chat and says, you are already doing a little more. He says, courage, my dear colleague. I face similar challenges here, especially amidst a multilingual community. So I tried to learn to speak or even say a greeting in various languages spoken in my community, then sought out significant influencers, educated them, and used them to mobilize their communities. Hawa Buhari also has a response to an experience to share with Kelvin. The issues around myths are basically everywhere, especially with regards to COVID-19. It will help if key prominent people get vaccinated, says Hawa Buhari, for the community to see, for example, stars, etc. All right, we've already moved to the feedback. Jenny, I'd like to turn to you first. Remind us who you are and what you're doing here. And then I'm going to ask you if you can summarize in a sentence or two, what is this challenge about?
Great. Hello, everyone. Great to see you again and to see such great energy and participation. So I am an immunization technical expert, and I'm here to help with learning from you about what you've been doing, some of the challenges, and how we can help each other with some of the common issues. So today, this last week, many of you submitted challenges that relate to COVID vaccine introduction. And so some of a bulk of what the challenges are that we're going to focus on have to do with myths and disinformation and community engagement. So Kelvin's challenge is a good synopsis of this challenge. It's really to do with wanting to introduce a COVID vaccine, but the myths and the disinformation is quite high, and so trying to work on vaccine acceptance to meet the 40% target for December. So I think if Kelvin is around, we can dig right into this, but remember that since lots of you submitted challenges related to this, we need to help Kelvin with crowdsourcing your experience and how we can help Kelvin with his particular challenge. Over to you.
Thanks, Jenny. So I've put the challenge back on screen. Kelvin is with us. I'm asking him to unmute, but I don't see him able to unmute yet. But I do see Joyce Murray. All right, Kelvin. Yes, a warm welcome to you. Tell us more about. I was missing who you are and what you do in Liberia at the subnational level. Can you fill in the blanks for us, please?
Yes. Hello to everybody. I'm Kevin Boema. I work with the WHO as a country coordinator, supporting the subnational in responding to emergency and implementing health services at large. So one of my main focus in surveillance and as well as EPR, immunization.
So can you tell us? What happened where you found this? You faced this challenge. When and where did you realize that this was a challenge?
So during the COVID outbreak, a lot of myths concerning the COVID outbreak, where people say, there were diseases that were brought to kill everybody, and then with the coming up with the vaccine production and to vaccinate people to protect them, the myth increases. So many people didn't want to take the vaccine, and more people still have that myth within them that we want to kill. But that was during the time that we came up with a challenge. That we need to see how we can increase our courage and doing this kind of engage the community. The challenge was
so Kelvin, I hear you clearly, but you are rubbing your microphone against something. You must be moving around. If you could stop doing that and sit still without moving your microphone, we will hear you a lot better. While you fix that, okay. I'm going to go to Joyce Murray because she has a question for you, Kelvin. She wants to know more about your challenge. Yeah. And then for everyone else listening in the room, please think about your own experience with demand creation, with the situation, specifically with COVID-19 vaccine, and things you have done, practices that have worked for you. And then if you have something to share, please raise your hand. And Kelvin, I'm going to mute you for now because there is a lot of static coming from your microphone. Joyce, what is your question for Kelvin, please?
Thank you very much, Reda. My question for Kelvin is, who of the local and influential community leaders did you find most helpful in order to meet your goal?
All right. Thank you. Yeah. And just before we go back to Kelvin, who hopefully has fixed that microphone issue, Kelvin also has a lesson learned. He says it's more likely to achieve your goal when the community is involved and takes ownership of health activities. I would say that's very hard to disagree with. What I would challenge the group that's in the room with us for this hackathon is exactly how do you get the community involved and help the community take ownership of health activities? If you can share specific experience, not generalities, that will be helpful to Kelvin. If you just say, yeah, you need to do this, you need to do that, not so helpful. But if you tell him, here's what I did and here's how it was helpful, that is far more likely to be useful. Kevin, what's your answer? I'm asking you to unmute again. I hope you fixed your microphone. Who of the local and influential community leaders have you found most helpful in practice? So you will need to unmute.
Yes, hello?
Yes.
So thank you very much, Joy, for the question. So yeah, the most helpful group I will deal with here is the superintendent, who happen to be the head of the county, who oversee the activities like next to the president in the county. Going down to the community, we also look at the commissioners, the country, general country, or if you get them taken into the activities, then their servant will also follow.
All right, thank you, Kelvin. Okay, now we're going to go straight to the sharing of experience. So I'm going to put, I don't see any raised hands so far, but that is the point of the hackathon, is to share that experience. And I know that in the last year or so, it's unlikely that anyone in the room has not had any experience with this issue. So please, you can find the raised hand button. It's under the reactions. And again, the challenge where I'm going to challenge you a little bit, is for you to relate that back to what Kelvin faced. Deepak Kumar Patro, yes. the floor is yours. Remind us who you are, what you do, where you're connecting from, and then tell me what is the experience that you think will be helpful to Kelvin.
Yes, this is Joyce Murray.
Hello. Actually, I am working in the Human Rights Council of India, Indian Human Rights Council, and my boss, who is SK Burma, he is inspired me to do towards the vaccination programs in the remote areas, rural areas, and I was being motivated, and I was proceeding in that time. And but what I found, people are totally illiterate, and the vaccination hesitancy problem is there. So I have done so many awareness programs regarding the vaccination and its benefits and its usefulness. So after gradually the people have been motivated, and they have started gradually to take the vaccine in the corona time. And now they are moving towards the awareness of corona and corona vaccination and what is its usefulness, etc., etc. But one problem is here, sir. Below 18 years, still now the vaccine is not available. So below 18 years children are suffered too much. So if the below 18 years children, the vaccination will be available, it would have been better in the future. And after taking the vaccine, the people are feeling better than before. So I want the below 18 years, those who are suffering and they are not being able to take the vaccine because due to the unavailability of a vaccine. So I would like to request that the vaccine should be available for the below 18 years, and those in the old age persons are not moving from their home to the vaccination centers. So the government should be taken the steps towards the door delivery of the vaccine by collecting the primary data from door to door, from house to house, and as per the data who have not taken vaccines, the vaccines should be delivered in free of cost. So it would have been better in the future.
All right, thank you, Deepak. Let's go to Joyce. She also wanted to share her experience, and then we'll go back to each of what you've shared to examine how it can be useful to Kelvin, or if we need more detailed information to better understand what you did, and especially most crucially how you did it. Joyce, what is the experience that you would like to share with Kelvin Safia Boima from Liberia, who works at the subnational level and who's concerned his challenge is how to reduce the myths and increase COVID-19 vaccine acceptance to achieve a target set with WHO by the end of December?
Thank you very much, Reda, once again. This is Joyce Murray, joining from Maryland, USA. My situation is very different because I volunteer for COVID-19 events here in the USA, but my action plan is in Kajiado County in Kenya. I have a county coordinator down in Kajiado, and what we have done there in order to engage the community, and that's the one I wanted to respond on, involve the community to take ownership, is that the Maasai community is structured in clusters or clans, and we use just yesterday, we used one of the clan leaders in order to speak to the community about vaccines, benefits of vaccines, and vaccines along the life course. And that is the only way we have learned. And because the county director, coordinator has worked with the Maasai community in other services for a long time, that is the only way we are able to help clan by clan, one clan at a time, to respond to the education we are giving on immunization along the lifespan. Thank you.
So Joyce, let me dig in a little bit. What does that mean? So when you say that someone in the organization has a lot of experience working with these communities, with these clans, what is the difference? What does the experience consist of? How is it different from someone who knows nothing about these clans and tries to go and talk to one of the leaders of this of one of these communities? What is it that experience gives you that you would not know if you just dropped in from the sky and went to talk to a leader from one of the communities you're referring to?
The biggest advantage is that that gives you a leverage. You have worked with these leaders in other areas, so you have created trust among these people.
So how was that trust created in the past? What enables that trust? And to what extent is it about incentives such as funding? And to what extent is it about other kinds of engagements or activities that build trust?
They trust the integrity of the services that are given, and they also trust, I hope I understood the question well, Reda, and they trust that what you talk about is what you deliver. I think that that's the most important, the integrity of delivering what you talk to the community about. They can trust you on this. The biggest challenge is how to continue doing that.
Right. And so we know many scholars work in environments in fragile contexts where the trust in the government in general is can be very low, can be a big problem. So what, on the basis of this experience, what would you suggest to Kelvin or others who do not have the benefit of having that experienced person who's established trust, who's delivered in line with the commitments? If you work in a fragile and maybe even a hostile environment, where would you start? What would be your step one to show that you are here to help, to do public health, and that is distinct from whatever else may be going on?
One would have to help. Like in our case, we started with the county director of health services. We started with the EPI contact person, who actually is the one who started by identifying for us partners and community leaders that we can use. These are the people that brought us on the ground to the community. We also last week talked to the Anglican bishop, who also directed us to the religious leader down in the community. These people have been working with the clan leaders and working together with them. That gives a whole group of people that the clan is aware of, and the clan has worked with them. They have known what they deliver and what they cannot deliver.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please conclude.
I wanted to conclude by saying that working together with other leaders in other sectors in order to reach the community is very, very important. And also having somebody who knows the community well.
Thank you, Joyce.
That could be a challenge in itself, finding that person.
We're now going to go to Jenny Saguerra to hear her comments, questions, and reflections. It looks like Kelvin's connection dropped out. This will happen probably every time someone, challenge owner, may not be here. Of course, they will receive the recording and be able to hear your feedback. If the challenge owner is there, I will turn to him or her and say, has this feedback, have these inputs been helpful to your work, to your challenge? But first, let's hear from Jenny.
Hi, thank you. This is, I think the issue of hesitancy around COVID is a big one. We've heard that issue of trust or confidence in the people who are managing or delivering the vaccines is important, as well as trust and confidence in the vaccine itself. And so, Joyce talked about, using clan leaders. So those are the local traditional leaders or religious leaders. And I think that this is really an important part of finding local people who are trusted or people who have confidence in people locally. And we rarely talk about audience segmentation at the community level. I think that's important the more and more sophisticated we get with trying to tailor challenges for local solutions. So the older population may think that, the religious and traditional leaders are the most trusted. The younger population may want to look more to local musicians, local sports celebrities. So I think it's important to use a variety of interventions to address the trust or confidence issues. And so trying to figure out from your local situation, is the biggest issue with all the population? Is it older? Is it, the younger population? Who exactly has this issue? And if it's everyone, trying to tease out what will be most effective for which populations. So trying to go a bit deeper, a bit more specific. If we know that we need to use trusted local leaders, who are those trusted local leaders by segmentation of the local population?
Thank you, Jenny Saguerra. Now we are at the 24-minute mark of our 30-minute hackathon. You may say that's so little time, but we know that when we ask you what is your biggest challenge as participants in the Impact Accelerator, well, time turns out to be the most precious resource. So I would like now to ask those of you who are in the Zoom studio as well as in the hackathon, we have two additional challenges, one from Enjo Andreas from Cameroon and the other from Fusaini Abubakar from Ghana. Actually, there's four challenges altogether, as well as Egunjobi Anifat Omowumi from Nigeria. So we have a choice. We can close in 6 minutes and stick to the commitment of the 30-minute hackathon, or if you are interested in spending a little bit more time, taking a little bit more time to help your colleagues and share your experience, I'd like you to type more into the chat. So MORE, I've just done it. I'm not expressing my opinion, but just showing how it's done. So Deepak, if you'd like for this hackathon to continue, please type more into the chat if you're ready to stay a little bit longer. Abubakar Mohammed Garba, if you are willing, and if you want, you have to opt in to choose to stay longer to help your colleagues. Dr. Anantesh, please let us know. Type more if you are ready to stay a little bit more. Dr. Kaiser Parviz Kader Harirar, Dr. Suresh Kumar Dalpath, Emmanuel Musa, Gaurav Kambaj, Hawa Buhari. Go ahead and type more if you'd like, if you're ready to stay on to spend a little bit more time helping your colleagues. We do this in response to what you told us when you applied for the Impact Accelerator, which is that you wanted to meet your peers for short sessions to share experience. So Yasunesh Tesome, Rabiu Faje, Okpara Godswill, Mohammed Umar Sakhwa. All right. I think we have a go to spend a little bit more time, and really want to share my appreciation to those of you who are taking time out from your daily work in order to help to support your colleagues. And let's see if, in fact, Enjo Andreas. All right. Yeah, and Jenny has suggested, so Anjo Andreas is not here. Let me see if Husseini, and then we have, all right, so we don't have the challenge owners in the room, and that is fine. Challenge number 2 is from Andreas Enjo on how to improve community engagement through communication and management of misinformation and disinformation around COVID-19 vaccination. So everyone who registered to participate in the hackathon has received a slide deck. We make it available also for anyone who's listening through the Telegram channel set up for this for Immunization Agenda 2030. Jenny, could you summarize in a sentence or two what is Andreas Enjo's challenge and why does it matter?
Great. Thank you, Reda. And hi again, everyone. I think the challenge is very similar to Kelvin's, which has to do with misinformation and disinformation around COVID-19 vaccination. And then we have Husseini, who is actually having a defaulter or a dropout challenge with the first dose of AstraZeneca introduced, and then many rumors because of some fever and disinformation that's leading to concerns about high dropout when the second dose comes. But I think that because we have lots and lots of people in the room who have experience with polio resistance and polio vaccination, disinformation and misinformation, it would actually be wonderful to hear about, the 10, 15, 20 years of experience that people have with addressing polio misinformation, disinformation, and what worked the best in addressing some of those challenges. Because I think COVID vaccination is new, we're still learning about the challenges, but we have a lot to learn from decades of implementing polio campaigns in places where there has been a lot of disinformation, misinformation, distrust in government, distrust in the health system. So is there anyone out there who is willing to share some of the polio experience with the polio vaccine hesitancy, with misinformation, disinformation?
So I'm indeed pretty sure that there are a number of individuals who have experience specifically with polio vaccination. Would be good to hear how in your work you responded to fears, misinformation, disinformation, and moved individuals, families, communities from hesitancy or reluctance or even refusal to acceptance. Hawa Buhari, warm welcome to you. Please tell us who you are, what you do, and then what can you think of a specific time when you were confronted, you were doing polio vaccination work, and you were confronted by misinformation, disinformation. Tell us about that time and what you did about it. But first, do introduce yourself.
Okay, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everyone. I'm Hawa Buhari. I work with UNICEF in Nigeria, northern part of Nigeria, Sokoto, at the subnational level. I've been working with on the polio campaigns for like 8-9 years now, and we've been faced with quite a lot of vaccine hesitancy challenge, especially in northern Nigeria, which is very rampant. So some of the issues we've had with hesitancy is the misconceptions about the vaccines, where caregivers have the perception that vaccination causes actually infertility. So we had to do a lot of. First, we started with focus group discussion to really get detailed explanation, probe further on what brought about the misconceptions, where we got the fact that people believed that most of their children, especially the females, when they get vaccinated at time of puberty or when they are matured, they don't get to conceive and all that. So we actually used two things. We used the high-profile community leaders to get access to the community, and then we look for what we call the key influential persons at community, who are practically like gatekeepers in the community, to help us really penetrate into the community and sensitize people intensively. Among the other things we used, what we call the VCM network, volunteer community mobilization, who are home-based people now in the community. Most of them are either sisters or grandmothers or mothers to most of the clients we have with vaccine hesitancy issues. So we actually, for a lot of time, for a while, we had a serious trouble getting access to them, but over time we get that acceptance from them, because now we are using their home-based people, community-based people that they are used to. And then we also use some high-profile celebrities, because here they are very common with maybe home movie celebrities and all that. So we use them actually to pass on messages. So we use both the religious leaders from both Christian aspect and the Muslims aspect to reach out to people. So by and large, at least we got.
Hawa, thank you for sharing that. My question to you is, when you say you went to high-profile community leaders and gatekeepers, can you tell us about a time when you actually did that? What was your role? What did you do? who was the community leader, and what were the words you actually used to to explain, to sort of share help them understand and help them change their attitudes and behavior? Can you tell us? Can you think of a specific time when you had a difficult conversation? Who was it with? What happened? And what were the words that you used? If you're able to remember?
Let me look back and see. There was actually this particular client we had at some point. One of the major campaigns we had then, we had a lot of outbreaks, and during vaccination campaigns we usually have the teams, house to house teams tend to report to us about the rejections they have. So we go there to sensitize. So we met this particular caregiver who, to our surprise, is actually literate. He's quite educated, and we're asking, okay, you don't want your children to be vaccinated. Can you please state the reasons why? And he kept saying, okay, this is his reason. He started with the fact that vaccines are not safe, or like, okay, if you say the vaccines are not safe, why would you think they are not? He said they are produced in the Western countries. So we went further to explain to him, okay, these vaccines are actually produced from Indonesia, and if you think in the religious aspect right now, if Saudi Arabia can actually accept this vaccination and make it mandatory for pilgrims coming into the country to be vaccinated, why would you think it's not safe? Because for us as Muslims, we look at Saudi like it's like a pace setter for us. So things that are Islamically not right would not be acceptable in Saudi Arabia. So we use that aspect now to penetrate. I was like, okay, if you need to go for the pilgrimage, which we call Hajj, as an adult, you have to actually take the polio vaccine. So if you skip taking the polio vaccine, for example, in Nigeria, by the time you get to the airport in Jeddah, you will definitely be vaccinated. You have two choices. It's either you get the polio vaccine or you go back home. So you see, if it was not safe, Saudi for one would not accept it. So we use that as an entry point with support of our religious leaders. So for us here, we have the religious hierarchy. There's a topmost sultan who is like let's say almost like a pope. So at the national level, they reached out to the sultan. Then at state level, we have emirs that are under the sultan's hierarchy, which we reach out at the subnational level. Then when we go down to the local level, we have what we call the district heads. So we reach out to them too at the various hierarchies.
Thank you, Hawa Buhari. Jenny points out that besides using local leaders to help with messaging, you noted that local leaders actually taking the vaccine in public is also a great way to model vaccination. Jenny, do you have follow-up questions? And then for Hawa, to get more detail about exactly how she did what she referred to. And then we'll hear from Rabiu Fage or Fage. You'll correct me if I mispronounced your name, Jenny. Any follow-up questions for Hawa?
Yes, I think what she mentioned in the Telegram channel is really fascinating, because if the issue is confidence or lack of confidence in the vaccine itself, what can you do to help raise confidence that the vaccine is safe? And you said there's an example of using local leaders to take the vaccine in public, whether it's local TV channels or in the community itself. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen with this and how it changed the situation?
Okay, let me use our network, for example, as a typical example. Especially let's say for COVID-19, when the first phase of the vaccination rollout, we had issues we started with the frontliners. So we found situations whereby even the frontliners were actually running away from getting vaccinated. You made a vaccinator actually vaccinating others, but him or her refusing to take the vaccine. So what we now made it mandatory for us, for our network, we have what we call the volunteer community mobilizers, who are at the settlement level. Then at what level we had, and then the hierarchy goes up. So what we did is that at the introduction of the vaccine in the state governor was made to take the vaccine and it was aired. The Sultan, who is the highest ranking religious leader, took the vaccine and it was aired. Then for us now, we started, okay, my supervisor had to take the vaccine, and then we followed the next step. Then an immediate subordinate also took the vaccine. So for us now to be able to convince our community mobilizers that this vaccine is actually safe, we had to really, while we were taking our own shots, just like the governor and the Sultan did, we had pictures as evidence of when we were taking our vaccine, and then we had our cards to show for it. So over time, we made it mandatory that every community mobilizer out there needs to take this vaccine at their community level, so that their community members will now see that even they that they are coming to create awareness for them and sensitize them about these vaccines have already taken their shot. So it's safe. Because if anything, we had this slogan well, like, if the vaccine was not safe, do you think the world is stupid enough to wipe out the whole frontline workers, who are the health professionals? We are the ones treating the sick. So if all the let's say medical doctors and nurses and frontliners are killed, then who takes care of the world? So we use that actually, and we really got a good coverage in our states.
Thank you, Howard. I think it's this level of detail that we think will be most helpful. Let us know if you are facing this challenge. Is listening to Hawa you describe what she did and how she did it, is that helpful? Next we're going to Rabiu. Rabiu, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Yes. And we'd love to hear from you. What's the experience? Jenny mentioned specifically with polio vaccination and sort of responding to hesitancy, disinformation, misinformation. Tell us what you did, and if you can be very specific, think of a time and place when something happened, an incident that you had to respond to. Tell us what you did and how you did it.
So thank you so much, Reda, Jenny, and the team. This is Rabi Ufege. I'm a McKinsey consultant supporting routine immunization PSC integration in State, Nigeria. I think Hawa has mentioned a lot of things on how we actually address issues about hesitancy, misinformation, and what have you as far as polio is concerned. I can recall very, very clearly one incident in 2013 in one of the local government areas in Kano State, specifically in Kura LGA, in one ward that is called Karpi ward, and in one particular settlement that is called Yakase. I happened to supervise team that actually went house to house to immunize children for polio, and we went to one Islamic school that has about 20 eligible children, including 2 eligible children from the house of the children of the Islamic scholar himself. And he actually vehemently rejected allowing all the children to be immunized, including his own daughter and son. So I had to engage him in a long conversation, letting him know that during our conversation, I realized the particular Islamic sect he belongs to, and I told him that, Malang, do you know that I mentioned the name of a very popular Islamic scholar in Nigeria who belongs to the same sect with him. And I told him that, did you know that so Malam also personally immunized his grandchildren for polio vaccines? He said, no, it cannot happen. I told him, what about if I show you an evidence that he actually did? He said, to God who made me, if you show me that evidence, I will allow you to immunize all of these children. And behold, I was carrying my CD, that my compact disc that contains videos of recognized individuals, Islamic scholars, traditional leaders that actually talked about polio eradication and immunized their kids. And I showed him using my own laptop. He saw specifically it was a Sheikh Tahiru Bauchi, who I was specific about. And when he saw Sheikh Tahir Bauchi immunizing his own grandchildren himself and mentioning it in the video, the Malam brought all the kids that were actually eligible for immunization, and they were all vaccinated. This is a particular incident I will forever remember about how influential that Islamic scholars and professional leaders and influential individuals can be as far as addressing issues about hesitancy and also misinformation. So I think this is what I think I need to share with the House. Over.
Thank you very much. We're now going to try to hear from Mohammed Umar Sakhwa, who shared a comment in the chat, but would love to hear from you, Mohammed, if you're able to unmute. And then we also have, actually, I think, Fasaini Abu Bakr, who is challenge number 3 for today, has been, I think, having connectivity issues. That will happen to everyone, but the challenge is there, whether or not he is able to connect. Mohammed Umar Sakhwa, a warm welcome to you. Please tell us who you are, what you do, and what you'd like to share on this issue.
Hello, I'm Mohammed Umar Sakhwa from Bauchi State, Nigeria. I was the State Director of Primary Healthcare, retired, and a consultant, polio consultant with the USAID under the JSI supported program. The polio campaign in a sub-national, that is Bauchi, is one of the states that in those days, about 15 to 20 years back, is the area where there is very high incidence of wild polio virus. In a single ward, in one of the high risk local government, we recorded 16 wild polio virus cases. So the people there doesn't take the polio vaccine, they reject the vaccine vehemently, and those days the vaccination campaign is a business for health workers. But actually, most of the important non-health workers were not fully involved. And even those Islamic scholars who mostly give the problem, they are having this disinformation and misinformation. And because of that, they preach against the vaccine, taking vaccine, rather than preaching against for accepting the vaccine. So these challenges has made the Bauchi in the northern part of Nigeria to be one of the very high risk area, and almost everybody's eye is on Bauchi. But later on, we discovered that we can't achieve anything alone. So the state took the leadership, and the executive governor of that time brought almost all the stakeholders in the same table and then talked to them. And then social mobilization committee was developed. And then the WHO then helped us with data because the state has no adequate data of the happening. So WHO helped us and other partners helped us in getting the data of areas where there is this block rejection, and then the social mobilization team moved from one LGA to the LGA based on data segregated at the end of the exercise where there is poorly covered or not even covered at all. So this helps a lot in reaching one-in-one, because in most of the communities, almost all the communities, there are very stubborn people who influence the rejection of the vaccine. So the Social Mobilization Committee, a high-powered with the emir as heading the committee, go to the settlement and then talk to the people. And in some cases, we even use the most influential person in that religion sect to talk to them. And with that, I'm happy to say that Bauchi is one of the states that eradicated polio even before the Nigeria is certificated. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Mohammed. Umar, Sakhwa. Now, I see Fusaini Abubakar. Maybe this is before we hear Jenny's closing comments. Fusaini Abubakar is actually on Telegram. You should be able to unmute Fusaini if you're still able to hear us. Would love to hear. So you had a challenge that you submitted. We'd like to know, has this discussion been helpful to you? So you are from Ghana, you work in a health facility, and you faced this challenge of community members who are reluctant to receive the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. But unfortunately, Fusaini just got disconnected again. So Joyce also has another a comment who says the message we heard from Hawa, she says, is very important in her case. So working with communities in Kenya, some religious leaders already have the vaccines but do not encourage their congregation to take it. The message to them, we're encouraging them to speak out to the congregation to take the vaccine. Last week, we had one unsuccessful encounter, but we've arranged for a follow-up meeting to speak more about the benefits of vaccines, to continue having a healthy congregation that continues to attend church, because if they are sick from vaccine preventable diseases, there will be no congregation. And she says, I can't wait to hear whether this message will make a difference. We can't wait either. And we hope in Monday's assembly, maybe you'll be able to tell us already what the response has been. Now, over to Jenny Saguerra for your closing comments and reflections on what you've heard today and what are the takeaways from your perspective for those like Fusaini Abubakar, Egunjombi Anifat Omowumi, Enjo Andreas, and Kelvin Safia Boima, who are facing these challenges around demand, hesitancy, and so on, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Jenny?
Great, thank you. I think we heard a lot of very good particular specific ideas. First of all, it's important to segment. Is this an issue that people are having with the vaccine itself? And if it's the vaccine itself, what can we do at the large scale level through media to address this? And Hawa and others suggested, community leaders, religious leaders, traditional leaders, or stars actually getting vaccinated and modeling vaccination and showing this on media. So that's to address the vaccine distrust or confidence at a large scale. At the smaller scale for the vaccine, we heard examples from Sakhwa and others about going specifically to address that community, that household. And Rabiu talked about an Islamic school, a very particular example. And I think from Rabiu's message, the thing I took away was be prepared. If you're addressing vaccine challenges that people have with the vaccine itself, be prepared with examples. Have videos on your phone, have news clippings, media clippings that show people who are trusted by that particular audience taking the vaccine or giving messages that support the vaccine. So I think doing your homework and having particular examples for those trusted people who support the vaccine, if the challenge is the vaccine itself. Now, we also have challenges with the vaccination, the system that delivers the vaccines. And if that's the case, Samuel in the comments said there's political reasons. So it may be that the refusal for vaccination can come from a place of distrusting the government system or being a political statement against the system. It can be a distrust of the health system. So it's important to be able to identify, is this hesitancy or lack of confidence coming from the vaccine itself or the vaccination? And once you have that, then to get particular with how you're addressing it. But I think the biggest takeaway is be specific, be prepared, and think about what you can do for the larger at scale population through media and other channels versus localized interventions that either work with clan leaders like Joyce talked with the Maasai, Rabiu talked with the Islamic schools, and Sakhwa talked about doing house-to-house settlement area issues following the data that they got out of the campaigns. Lastly, I'd like to just say we've had lots of challenges globally with polio acceptance, and we shouldn't just forget that. We need to use everything within our knowledge to help with the COVID-19 vaccination rollout, whether it's with people getting the vaccine the first time, or like Husseini's challenge with the second dose, and making sure that if there's some sort of fever or reaction with the first dose, that there's some localized attempts to address hesitancy with the second dose. So thank you. This was wonderful. I really learned a lot. I heard some specific examples. If we don't get to the specifics, we will stay at the general, less helpful level. So I want to thank the participants for going deep and getting very, very specific with their feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Jenny, Saguerra, and all of the participants in this hackathon number 2 for Immunization Agenda 2030. Our focus today was on demand, hesitancy, that whole set, that whole nexus of issues that has very much to do with community engagement and the relationship of health professionals to those communities. So this is just one event in the series during the 4-week sequence, what we call the Impact Accelerator. If we do this every Tuesday for the hackathon, so next Tuesday, 23rd, we'll have a different set of challenges submitted by participants in the Impact Accelerator who are national and subnational immunization staff. Now, a reminder why we are doing these hackathons is because you said that you wished to meet your peers for short sessions to share experience. In fact, this hackathon was scheduled for only 30 minutes, and we extended it because you asked for us to do so in order to continue the discussion. It's very important to highlight that this kind of discussion between practitioners only makes sense if it's useful to you. We'll hear back from the challenge owners, and they'll report back hopefully next Tuesday or in Monday's General Assembly as to how useful or not this was for them. So again, you'll find a lot more information about the Impact Accelerator and the Geneva Learning Foundation's activities on all our social media platforms. So whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you are most comfortable, you can go there and find the Geneva Learning Foundation. Once again, thank you and goodbye.